Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you guys are having a great week. Today we're going to talk about authority again. I know last week we went over how the enemy has to surrender to the authority within us, but it's not ourselves, our own authority. But today we're going to talk about where did that authority come from and how do we get more. So stick around. So last time we talked about how an officer has a badge. So when the officer tells somebody to stop, you're not submitting to the authority of the officer personally or as an individual. You're submitting to the authority behind the badge as the government that it represents. So it's beyond his individuality, beyond his personality or your opinion of him. We have to surrender. But where did that authority come from? Did that officer just have his own authority and just put himself in authority and grab the badge? Absolutely not. We understand in the natural that that officer, in order to be in authority, had to be placed in authority by somebody who is already in authority, somebody that already had that authority over him to pledge him in. So in the same sense, in the store, right? If you're gonna become a manager, you can only become a manager if somebody above that role placed you in management. It couldn't have been the clerk. It couldn't have been the person in the stock room if they didn't have that position or authority. It had to be somebody over the position that you're stepping into. So that's the same thing that happens with us. The way we get authority is through submission, because somebody in authority had to give it to us. But just like the officer, he had to submit to the authority that is already in place, and that's the only way. So the same way with us, we have to submit to the authority that's already in place. So when we step in and we submit to God, then he places authority over us. But before then, we have no authority because he has to place it over us. So that's why in James it says, submit to God, resist the devil, and he shall flee. So we have to submit. What does submit mean? It's under submission, under the mission of somebody else. So that's what we do when we come to God. We submit to his ways, and he's the one that places authority over us. See, so in that same sense, like the officer now being submitted to the authority, and let's go back to the example that we used last time where we talked about that it didn't matter what your opinion was of the officer. If that officer told you to stop, you had to stop. If that officer was arresting you, you had to submit and yield to the arrest, right? Regardless of what your thoughts were. Now see, that officer is submitted. So now that officer, once being submitted and placed in authority by somebody over him, now he has the power to act on behalf of the government that he's representing. So just like that officer walks in and everybody straightens up, right? Have you ever been driving and you're 100%, you have insurance, driver license, everything's good, right? But the officer gets behind you and 99 out of 100 people, they're like, oh crap. You know, you start looking at what you're doing, like, am I using my blinker? Am I braking how many feet away from the stop sign? And you just button up everywhere that you can button up because you understand the authority behind you, right? You understand the authority that is within your presence. See, the same thing happens in the spiritual. When you step into a place, a situation, the enemy and all his angels or whatever you want to call them, demons, they understand and they yield to the authority. So when you step into a place, the atmosphere shifts because they realize and they say, we better be in tip-top shape because somebody in authority has just entered around our presence. So when we submit to God, then and we resist the devil, he will flee. They're not gonna want to stick around. They're just like us when we're driving and we feel the police officer is like, oh come on, get away from me, get away from me, even though you're 100% not doing anything wrong. Now imagine if you were. Imagine if you knew there was something wrong that you can get busted for. Now you're sweating. Now you're like, man, get away from me, get away from me. And you keep driving, but all you think is you see the officer right behind you. That's the same thing the enemy should be feeling every time we step into the atmosphere, because he has a stronghold on the people, on the neighborhoods, on communities. But he should be sweating and understanding that somebody in authority just stepped in. But we have to submit, and it has to be placed over us by the one who's already in authority. So join me for the next video. It's gonna be coming shortly. We're gonna be going a little bit more into authority. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.